morning, Brown.
Morning. I'm so tired, I was up really late. Hey, Brownman Ali here from Browntasauras Records. We're going to talk about day 3 of the Maclean Solo Piano Sessions at Shelly Studios, which actually happened yesterday. It's the morning. It's actually afternoon. It's my morning.
It's 1 o'clock.
Yeah. I was up till 7 a.m. Just doing video editing things and a bunch of other record-related stuff, and poor Nick died, but we'll get to that. So yeah, we're just gonna wrap up how day 3 went and do a quick overview of the whole thing. First of all, let's talk about the venue, because that space is really remarkable. The studio is called Shelly Studio. The owner is David Chester, and the engineer, the in-house engineer there, is Justin Mealy. They're both incredible human beings, and the space is one of a kind, and I highly recommend it for artists looking for spaces with their own personality.
It's an inspiring space to be in.
That's the word.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a chalet. It's a giant house in the middle of nowhere. There are just forests all around, and
by house it's more like farmhouse.
Yeah.
Because it's sprawling.
Yeah, and like the main recording room is huge, got high ceilings, big open windows off to the forest, and like even as you drive in, you really get off the beaten path, and you really get a sense of like, okay, we're in nature now, and there's something about that just gets the creative juices flowing. It's special there.
At the end of the day, Justin, the engineer, was recanting stories of other artists that have come in and captured some of the magic. And he as an engineer who's been in many studios, feels that place has an incredible magical quality to it. I know this sounds very ethereal, but having experienced it, I think it's very much the truth. So yeah, artists looking for an incredible experience. And again, we moved in there. We went and lived there. We're back at Nick's place right now. These are his children. This is Siva.
And this is Jasper.
Yeah, and they like people, clearly. And so Shelly Studio, killer. And they've got a great piano for those looking for great pianos. That actually, if we're being honest about all that stuff, that's the factor. I recommended the studio to Nick based on my experiences there. I've been in there several times over the years. My first was in 1999 with Rita DeGent, with Nick Blagona mixing and mastering. His genius touch was all over that record. And again, we stayed. It was a live-in space even back then. So for me, that was a life-changing experience for me as a young. I was in my 20s the first time back then.
Still in your 20s, right?
Right, exactly, yeah. Exactly. So I recommended the studio to Nick, but really we were auditioning pianos at that point. So, and I didn't really mention the space as the magicness. Yeah, as a factor for the magicness.
And especially for this project, the piano has to be the first thing, and everything else kind of flows from
Exactly. So he was making his choices about studios based on the piano. So yeah, he took a drive up there on his own and played the piano, and then I got a message saying, "I love this piano, let's do it here," and I was very excited. And so that I reached out to the owner at that point, and he was like, "Brown, it's been years." I was in there a lot more in the 90s, and then after touring with Guru, I was just splitting my time between Toronto and New York, so I was doing much less work at Shelly, unfortunately. So it's great to have a return to that space. So, and I'm looking forward to doing more projects that I think Nick's already got it in his head that he wants to do the next Nick Maclean Quartet record. There.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Negatives? Did you have any negative experiences in the 3 days? Over 3 days?
During one of the takes, I was attacked by a fly.
Oh, yeah.
So you're really back to nature.
Because it's country farmhouse, yeah, there's a lot of insects. There's like a weird insect up there. If you kill it, it smells like green apples, which is the weirdest, kind of most awesome thing ever.
Brown was so enamored with it, he brought one home with us, but by accident.
Well, the bug crawled in my jacket.
Yeah.
Damn bug was in my jacket. And I tried to set it free, and it didn't want to leave my jacket, so I had to kill it in the sink. Sorry. I tried, but it wouldn't let go. I was like out there flapping my jacket in the wind, like how one might shake a dirty rug, and it wouldn't come off. So I don't know. but other than that, no musical downsides?
No, it was
awesome.
Really fantastic.
I only really have one negative. And that's and it's just a life thing because we're in the midst of a pandemic, like it's COVID. So the masking, Nick and I don't wear masks around each other because we're in the same social bubble. But, you know, we have to be fully masked up when we're around the studio staff. And Nick was alone on the main floor with the piano. So he was unmasked, but I had to constantly mask and demask every time I had to talk. So it was just like 10 to 12 hours a day of this and moving and taking it off, and I found it was messing with my head. It would like pull me out of spaces sometimes, like I want to go to say something and it sounds like that, and Nick's like, what? Oh, I have to take it off. And so this constant masking and demasking was a bother and unfortunate, but that's just how it's got to be because, you know, public health and safety comes first. And but it was just an unfortunate circumstance. I would have preferred, obviously, to not have had a mask, but that's it. Other than that, I have no negatives. I found it a little cold as a Caribbean man, but other than that, I got no negatives. So day 3, what happened on day 3?
Well, day 3 was a super easy day for me. I didn't touch the piano once.
Why not?
Well, because we had the amazing Brown Man in the studio putting down all the percussion tracks for Ostinato, the Cuban tune.
I don't like the use of the term "amazing" in that context. Yeah, I'm a reasonable hand percussionist, and I have very different skill sets depending on the instrument. I play the hell out of the campana. The campana is the big cowbell, and I play that bell in a lot of my other groups, so I'm very comfortable on it. I'm a terrible weirdo player. I'm a really bad bongo player, I would say. And so, yeah, I have varying degrees of enjoyment of myself through the day, and there's a lot of self-loathing involved. However, that being said, I think we got great takes of stuff, and I think we have enough stuff to be able to, you know. I guess what I'm saying is, if it was Lucito in the studio, what took me literally a full day would have taken Lou about 10 minutes. So, yeah, I'm embarrassed by that. But the good news is I think the percussion that went down is pretty solid, so I think it's going to be enjoyable in the sense that it's the only tune on the record that's not pure solo piano. It's all the tunes are solo piano, and this one tune's going to have a little percussion accompaniment, and it's like, you know, time and arrangement, dancing. The idea was to create something that felt salsa ready, like like for salsa fans to be able to put it on and be like, oh, I can't help but do this, but move. So
speaking of not being able to help moves, like this man is just a bundle of energy all day. Like the shaker's going, and there are all these great dance steps, and
not great.
No, I thought they were great, but you know, I'm a white boy who can't dance.
Sure. Yeah.
And meanwhile, like Justin and I are sitting in the studio. The control room, like watching all this, and you know, 5 hours later, Justin and I are like, oh man, we need food. Brown, can we take a break? And Brown's still like dancing and shaking and guiroing, and he's ready to just keep on going. This man has incredible energy. It's something
about. I mean, you spend a whole day tracking Latin music. It's, for me, I mean, all my years playing in those kind of groups, and I mean, I run 4 of my own, right? A salsa band and 3 other Latin jazz groups, and I absolutely love that music. And man, you did a fantastic job with that stuff. It took a long time. Gauge the difficulty level of that tune, Nick.
Oh God, Stratahema is perhaps one of the most difficult tunes I've ever learned. And I wrote the bitch, so this is a self-inflicted wound.
I do that too. I write stuff that I can't play, and then I have to be a better trumpet player in order to play my own stupid music.
Yeah. I wrote that tune 4 years ago, and it's about now that I'm starting to feel comfortable in it.
He was saying that it took him 2.5 months. Is that right? Of practice, or longer? To
get
a studio ready.
Yeah.
So it's very, very challenging. So it was a whole day dedicated to Stratahema. And mainly percussion. It was mainly me on the floor and him in the booth. So a reverse of what happened the last 2 days. And I mean, it was good. I mean, my own self-loathing of abilities aside, we got good stuff. And I think it's going to be a hell of a track when we're done. It'll take forever to mix it. Like I literally played about 10 different percussion instruments, and all layered, all interlocking the way Cuban percussion instruments interlock. It was a lot of fun, but that's heavy because every part has to fit with every other part, and super tricky, but a lot of fun. And I think it's going to make for a great final track. What else do we talk about?
You as a producer.
Uh-oh.
All the terrible things you made me do.
Yeah. It's true. He's not lying.
No, but honestly, this is the third time that I've worked with you in the producer chair. The first was with Snaggle, and then Nick Maclean Quartet, and now as a solo pianist. And so I already had or at least I already thought I had a pretty reasonable idea of your skill set and your abilities in that chair. But this has been much more personal than the other ones.
Right. Because the nature of the music is so personal.
Yeah.
A solo piano record, you by yourself. So like, as opposed to like Nick Maclean Quartet would be, we lean heavily on the music. It's about the music and the craft of the art being captured, but this is like almost more about headspace. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Personality, your personality shining through each tune, which is tricky. And I mean, talk about how tough it was initially, right? By yourself.
Oh yeah, Jesus. It for like a month and a half, January and half of February, I was just full into solo piano mode, hours and hours of practice every day, just getting tunes ready. And when you're in that kind of a situation, it's so easy to get stuck in all of the minute details because you want everything to be executed well and with a high degree of accuracy. When you're executing melodies, you're making changes happen and all that kind of stuff. So it's so easy to get lost in all the technical stuff, and that's where I was when I started sending Brown recordings about mid-February, and I was getting messages back like, Nick, I don't know how to tell you this, but this recording sounds like it belongs on a cruise ship, and that's because that's where I was. I was way too immersed in all the technical stuff, getting this chord right, getting this melody right, making sure I'm outlining changes while I'm blowing, and I was completely forgetting about all of the emotional stuff, and it's got to have that. Like, to me, good jazz has to have both of this stuff. Like, all of my favorite artists have a heavy cerebral component to it, because all of their music is really intricate and really well thought out, but the other half of it is all emotional. And I mean, like, you were saying yesterday, no one puts on a Bill Evans record and goes, oh wow, isn't this clever?
Right.
You listen to it and you feel all of the things that are coming off of the waves of the music, and that was entirely what I was missing at that point. So we had a really great production meeting after that. Brown came here and we spent like a day and a half just going over all the tunes, talking about the stuff, listening to some tracks, and it completely changed it. It just reoriented my thinking, and it was a course correction, and I mean all the technical work was valuable because when you're dealing with the emotional stuff, you still want to be able to execute, but you want to be thinking about other things, so that execution has a context and has an impact and all that kind of stuff. And so that production session set me on that path for doing that. And so like the next month from there was filled with a lot of listening and a lot of kind of swimming down into different, like, what does this tune mean to me? Like one of the things Brown had me do was prepare like a headspace list, where for every tune I would write a paragraph about people it reminded me of, places it reminded me of, other things, and I filled it with some other things too, like recordings that put me into that frame of mind, photos of places I'd been that did that. And like for circle of influence, I thought of Banff. Because when Nick Maclean Quartet went across the country in 2019, we spent a few days in Banff for Brown's birthday, and holy crap, the mountains there are amazing, and just thinking about standing in the dead of winter, looking at snow-capped mountains in like the silent and like bracing cold, just put me in the mindset of the beginning of Circle of Influence, and so I did that for every tune, so that I could practice getting in the mindset and then playing the tune, and then when it came time to be in the studio, Brown had a little thing that he could remind me of things to help put me in the mood.
That was I think one of the most important aspects of the great takes is resetting every time.
Yeah.
It's really challenging for you as an artist, I think. If you just played 4 or 5 takes of highly energized Cuban music, and then what do we do next? And if let's say all the other high energy tunes are done and now we have to go deep introspective ballad, and it happened a couple of times where you started playing ballad and I was like, stop. Yeah. There's too much residual energy from the Cuban tune or from whatever tune was previous, and you gotta, and we'd have to take a minute and reset the headspace and get there. And I think that was probably one of the biggest challenges in order to do that much material with that wide a variety of genres and influences and styles and
but we were also able to kind of use that to our advantage a little bit. Because the first day we recorded Estratagema second, because I was all warmed up and I wanted to take it on because it was the hardest one, so I wanted to try and knock that out. But it was okay that day, but it wasn't really happening. But day 2, we started with Caged Bird, which has a bit of attitude to it, and then we went to Rational Discourse, which has a bit more energy to it. And then by the end of that tune, I was feeling energized. So I said, okay, listen, let me take another hit at Estratagema, and that's where we got our best takes from that tune. Yeah.
So we did 3 takes on day 1. But then we double back to it, and that's the only tune we double back to.
Yeah.
And take 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Yeah, take 5 is the one that will go on the record.
Yeah.
We already decided that. It was his strongest, which is interesting because for those who've been watching the earlier videos, I talk about generally after about 3 takes, you hit this point of diminishing returns, and some people get better for a couple more, but generally, like if you're by the time in this kind of music, where there's such a high degree of improvisation, when and creative juices and originality and freshness are all vital to the creative process. When that happens, and you do too many takes, you can flog the freshness out of it. It's the reason why Miles Davis didn't like doing too many takes, because you lose all that freshness. So I was being really cognizant of that going into it. So when he was like, let's do more takes on day 2, I was a little skeptical, but I said nothing, and I'm glad I didn't, because by his 5th take or his 2nd take of day 2, he nailed it. And that worked out extremely, extremely well. So, I mean, in general, he has no problem playing big. Like, big and high energy isn't an issue with Nick. Getting him, for the solo piano record, to play less and be deeply introspective and inward looking was tougher for him. And I think a lot of musicians too, me included, when I was younger, I had all kinds of problems because I want to play a lot of notes and I want to move around the horn, and you want to show off your abilities to a certain degree. But for me personally, as I've gotten older, you realize there's a time and place for all that stuff, and you don't need to. It doesn't have to be on display 24/7. So a lot of the beginnings of the slower, quieter tunes was me just reminding him of that, and it was just a lot of like less good. Do you remember that one? I don't remember what tune it was. I said, okay, why don't you try playing right hand melody only, and then left hand responds to the right hand, but only with 2 fingers.
Yeah.
That's it. Do you remember what tune that was?
It Could Happen to You.
Yeah, It Could Happen to You, the standard. And part of that was because we were banging out standards and they were all starting to sound the same, so I needed to kind of steer them in a different direction to get a different kind of take out of it. And he was already wanting to do kind of a Bill Evans-esque version of It Could Happen to You, and it was just too energized. So that was a good trick. But let me talk about him for a second, because it's one thing as a producer to give all this feedback and make all these suggestions and state a bunch of ways to help headspace, but not everyone can take that and do something good with it. Not everyone can take it and run with it. And this guy's penchant for creation from direction is unprecedented. It's beyond everybody's I've ever met, except maybe Mark Rogers. For those who don't know Mark Rogers, the incredible bass player, now lives in Nashville. Well, he goes back and forth, Toronto to Nashville. And Mark's one of those guys too. You give him a little idea, and this comes out of it, right? He was like that the entire time. And as a producer, it's super gratifying to be able to like plant a seed and then watch it grow, watch it blossom into this incredible, gorgeous, self-contained, unique tree, and then do it for every tune, do it every time. And I think first of all, as a piano player, his skills are unprecedented. I think he's one of the unsung heroes of the piano community in Canada, from a technical standpoint and a performance standpoint. But I think what's going to separate him and leave him in the history books in years to come is his ability to tap in and access that inner emotional center and then put it out, have it come out through his fingers. And like all our favorite piano players do that. Brad Mehldau, Keith Jarrett, Bill Evans, 3 simple examples of that. And he clearly wants to be in that frame of player. Like that's what, as opposed to say an Oscar Peterson, right? Like he's headed towards a Bill Evans-esque kind of identity. At least in these contexts, because when you're playing for Snaggle, you sound more like Corey from Snarky, right? Anyway, he's a really multi-dimensional player, and that was reaffirmed in spades in this recording. And for me, it's been really exciting to get to hear this artist over 3 different contexts now, because this will be the 3rd release on Browntasauras Records. The first was Snaggle, which is an electric jazz project in the vein of Snarky Puppy. The second was Nick Maclean Quartet, which is a Herbie Hancock-esque, very reminiscent of Herbie's band in the 1960s with Freddie on trumpet. And this is now solo piano, which is very reminiscent for me of the double record that Bill Evans did called Solo Sessions? Yeah, and so multi-dimensional, monster player, insightful, introspective, deeply creative. I mean, he's everything you're looking for in a piano player. So get ready. It'll be, if you haven't checked out the Snaggle and the NMQ recordings, please, you can go to browntasauras.com, and there's Spotify playlists now where the entire catalog, you can just stream it and check it all out. I mean, of course, the artists get very, very little from that, so if you really dig it, what we recommend is check it out for free from Spotify, and if you really love the music, please find a way to buy it, whether it's from the back of his truck or whether you go to Apple Music and pay for the download. But, artist equity is a big thing with Browntasauras Records. For those who don't know, my label features 100% of all proceeds go back to the artists. The label itself makes exactly zero. Operating budget is paid for by my trumpet playing. So that's it. We make absolutely nothing in order that the artists make everything. So please consider supporting not just Nick Maclean, but all the great artists on Browntasauras Records. And what's the next plans for Nick Maclean?
Well, the next plan is to get all the audio mixed and mastered and artwork commissioned and liner notes written.
Right.
There's many steps.
Many steps
before
we can
release.
So it might be a while, is what we're saying. So stay tuned, buckle up. It might be as long as a year, maybe. I mean, we don't know. The pandemic is, it causes problems with everything. It slows everything down, and plans, things that are easy to do are now difficult to do. So that changes timelines. So, but when it comes out, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a record for the ages. And I hope the rest of this country and other countries recognize his amazingness with this recording.
Thank you, Brown.
Yeah, man. Truth. I guess that's it.
Yeah,
we've covered it all. Well, congratulations, Nick
Thanks,
Maclean.
man, and thank you for all your help.
Man,
Seriously.
You're welcome. I feel like my role. I mean, my role is that of catalyst, and it's been an honor and a pleasure and a privilege to be your producer, and it's always a pleasure to be your trumpet player. It's so strange that this interaction had no trumpet playing in it whatsoever. It was just pure mind relationship. I'm looking forward to getting back to that. Because I love doing that. So that'll come next. And actually, we hinted that we might do a duet record. We didn't have time to do a little of that in the studio yesterday. There was just too much else to do. So we already talked about the idea of maybe just going back to Shelly and spending a day and just bang out a bunch of stuff. So we'll see, but that's definitely in our future, a Nick Maclean Brownman duet record, in addition to a new Nick Maclean quartet record, and Snaggle will make its way onto the roster, onto the new record roster soon, and all of my bands will have stuff coming up eventually. Probably the first will probably be Brownman Electric Trio, but then I'm writing for Cruzao. I got a grant to write new music for Cruzao Grupo Monstruoso, which is the big band version of that band. Arecibo will have a recording coming out. That's another of my Latin jazz groups. Brownman Acoustic Quartet, which Nick plays in, will have, and that's like a hard swinging thing. We'll have stuff coming up. So yeah, big plans. We have big plans. It's always about funding, and it's always about time. So as long as we have funding, and actually for those who would like to fund some of these projects, we'd love to take your money. You can go to donate.brownman.com, and there's multiple ways to send money to the record label and help some of these artists get their records made. And that's about it. Thanks for tuning in. As always, please support live music as soon as you're able to. And in the meantime, please check out all the wonderful artists on Browntasauras Records by going to browntasauras.com. I think that's it. All right. We're out?
We're out.
Peace.
See ya.